unlocked a Roundtable.
Hello, and welcome to the Lost Levels Roundtable discussion of Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. With me, as always, is Alex.
What's up?
We are talking Roundtable, so that means it's spoiler-filled.
Yes.
We are going to go into spoilers, so if you haven't watched Dawn of the Planet of the Apes yet, go check it out, come back, listen to this podcast, and that way you'll know exactly what we're talking about, and we're not spoiling it for you. So, why don't we start off with a brief plot summary? Basically, this is 10 years after the event of Rise of the Planet of the Apes.
Correct.
Where a growing nation of genetically evolved apes, led by Caesar, is threatened by a band of human survivors of the devastating virus unleashed a decade earlier.
Correct.
Basically,
when the monkeys got super intelligent, the same thing that got them super intelligent helped release this, what they call the simian virus, that killed off a large portion of the human populace.
Yeah. So, they kind of just go off into the redwoods.
Yep.
And anybody who's immune to the virus, humans, which aren't very many, are kind of left to either survive or just die and perish because the apes just kind of leave them alone. They built their own kind of colony, their own family, and just pretty much keep themselves. They see humans less and less. They kind of talk about that.
Yeah, they actually talk about how they think there's no humans left. They're like, yeah, it's been 2 winters since we've seen any humans. Pretty sure they're all gone.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of cool. I really like how they communicate through sign language and very limited speech, but they have their own types of ways they communicate, and it's an intelligent way to communicate. Really badass to see how they've kind of evolved through the 10 years and kind of grown into
a civilization of sorts.
Yeah.
I mean, you see them teaching the younger ones writing, and you see rules they have established about, no ape should kill another ape and all this other stuff. So, I mean, it's, they've become a legit civilization. So this is, the dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It's them rising to be dominant.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I was really impressed, like, the first 10 minutes into this movie, just how well the thought process was, like, when they were sitting down writing this movie. It's really thought out. Like, they did such a good job with the story to like, kind of get you to see both sides of survival.
It's such a gray area across the whole map. Like, you understand the ape's perspective, and you understand the human's perspective. And, us being humans, you'd think you'd obviously side for them, but you really do sympathize for the apes and what they're going through, and and you do kind of cheer for them. I mean, it's just this weird dynamic.
Yeah, it's the other parts of it too that I really enjoyed was you have Caesar, who's the main leader of the apes, and he's an idealist. I mean, he kind of believes that just with basic rules that his society can function well. And they can for the most part until they run into humans. But then you have one of his trusted advisors, who is Koba.
Koba, yes.
He
was in the first one, right? He was a major part in the first one.
Yeah, he was one of the tortured apes, the ones that they experimented on.
Very scarred. And that has a huge impact on his personality and eventually the plot and how events unfold in the film.
Right. And, like, it kind of shows, like, Caesar's arc, kind of realizing, like, no matter how peaceful he tries to keep it, there's always going to be people in his camp that are not necessarily going to show or have the same values as him, no matter how hard he tries. And Koba, because of all the experimentations, he hates humans. I mean, he's just not going to side with the humans at all. And, realistically, justifiably so.
Right.
I mean, you're always going to have that type of person, just like the humans had that type of douche on their side.
He hates apes, and he's like, no, screw these apes.
So through, the process of the humans kind of actually accidentally finding the apes, and there's that piece that's, like, always kind of there, but it is
very fragile.
It's
a very fragile piece.
And they did that so well.
Uh-huh.
They balanced it so well.
Because, I mean, there's pushing it towards the violent nature, towards, animosity and just conflict. But, I mean, they're always able to, bring it back. But then finally there's just that one final push that just makes it all collapse. And, at this point there's no turning back. And even at the end, as much as, you hope they can. You know, even the main human, Malcolm, was like, you know, we could resolve this, and Caesar's like, no, you have to leave. There's war is coming.
Yeah, and
A monkey is schooling a human, essentially. Like, it's such a weird dynamic relationship, but it works so well.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about, like, okay, in terms of the story, we kind of touched on, you know, the overall gist of it, but, like, is there any key points that you kind of want to talk about?
Well, I think, you know, the thing that kind of toppled the whole piece, which was Koba shooting Caesar. Like, when that happened, my heart sank because you grow to love Caesar. Like, he's just this great character that, you know, you come to respect and really appreciate as a person because he's just a good character. He's good-hearted, and he's always hoping for the best, but he's strong, and, you know he's not a wimp. So, he's just it's an ape that you look up to, you know? And then you see this scene where Koba betrays him and shoots him, and he falls and topples, and, you know, Koba plays it off as it's a human shooting him, and, you know, from that point it goes to war, and it's such a powerful scene. Just, you know, him setting the trees on fire and everything. It's that, like I said, I think that just kind of pushes everything to utter conflict, and you know that there's no turning back from this.
Yeah, and I expected Caesar to be dead. Like, I did not expect him to come back.
Right.
I expected, like, just all out, oh shit, Koba's going to kill everybody types of things. And luckily, Caesar does come back and kind of prevails in the end. But, like, as you said, no matter what is done, he realizes Koba has unleashed hell,
right,
so to speak, and there's no going back for it. So now he just has to defend his family as much as possible, knowing that war is going to happen regardless of how hard he tries to prevent it.
Exactly.
And yeah, I mean, it's such a good story. Like, I was super impressed with it, to be honest.
Oh God, yes. Like, it's just engaging throughout, and, like, none of it feels forced or anything. Like, all of it seems very natural. Once you get to know and understand characters, it does become character driven at that point. You know, it's these, you know, different personalities trying to mesh and mix together, but, you know, it doesn't work, and that's the ultimate downfall of the hopeful piece.
Yeah, and it's such a good take on, like, our society and how people would react and how people are in general. You have a wide range of different character types where they kind of cover a lot of different bases in terms of how opinions would play out in these types of scenarios, and people trying to lead who aren't as well equipped or don't have the knowledge as some other people. And it's such a good story. And coming off the last movie that I saw, which was the movie we reviewed last week, which was Transformers.
Hell.
I was sitting in the theater where that movie was, I would say, almost the same runtime, maybe a little bit longer. But this one felt like it was a perfect runtime.
Yeah.
Like, any longer, it would have felt like maybe it was a little bit too long. Any shorter, it would have been like not enough coverage or not enough development for the story to progress. It felt like it hit its mark perfectly.
Yes, you know, I definitely agree with that. Like,
and it was, the editing was smart. The way that the pacing was really good, because you are tense the whole entire time, because the story goes one way that you think, like, oh crap, and then all of a sudden it takes a turn. You're like, oh, okay, well, I didn't kind of expect that. It was not very cookie cutter. It keeps you guessing throughout the movie, which is excellent.
Yes.
You're not necessarily like, oh, okay, well, that's obviously going to happen, and you're just waiting for a half hour for that event to happen. No, it's smart storytelling.
Caesar being shot took me off guard, then Caesar being alive took me off guard. Like, it's just nothing, yeah, like you said, nothing seemed cookie cutter. It was very well thought out and surprising throughout. And it didn't seem kind of like, oh, well, that's stupid. It still, you know, made sense.
Yeah.
I mean, there's one thing that made me go, oh, but it wasn't like plot essential.
Okay. I had one, oh God, moment. Okay, what was yours?
Koba on a horse with 2 machine guns. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. We both agree on that.
That was mine, where I felt like Michael Bay somehow fit his wet dream carried over into this movie, where there's explosions in the background. Koba is on horseback with 2 machine guns, just shooting them off.
Not assault rifles, like light machine guns.
Right.
Like, and it's kind of fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a few. I don't even know how to say it, but like, yeah, I that took me out. That was the only thing that took me out of the movie. We're like, okay, seriously, guys, this is a little too much.
Yes.
Everything else looks amazing, and all of a sudden you have Koba.
Yes.
Doing this.
Him, it probably wouldn't have been so bad if it was just 1 machine gun. That was a little bit more believable. But like 2, like those are. I get apes are stronger, but still, I'm having never held a light machine gun and shot one. I imagine it'd be hard for an ape to do that.
Yeah, and I'm not even looking at it from that aspect. It is like the cheese factor.
It was cartoonish.
Yeah,
it was very cartoonish.
The CGI kind of didn't look great in that. There was a couple moments where the CGI didn't look too good.
Yeah.
But other than that, but like that definitely, that exact part took me out of the movie a little bit. Like, oh God, no, why, no, don't do this. This movie's so good so far. But luckily, that was just a short bit.
Yeah, very short, and it redeemed itself after that. So
yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it goes quickly back into the story, thankfully, and you see like Koba back on the battlefield, like seeing all his apes just getting decimated by a machine gun and not necessarily caring, just trying to just push forward.
Yes.
Complete opposite of Caesar, how Caesar would have done everything.
Yeah, Caesar would have, he was all about preserving his family, because he saw them all as a family, and he would never risk their lives in such a mindless slaughter.
Right. Why don't we go to the characters a little bit and talk about the cast? Caesar is played by Andy Serkis, who plays pretty much anything that's CGI related at this point.
I think his staple that really brought him to the limelight would have been Gollum, right?
Right.
And from then he does so many of those CGI motion captured characters.
Yeah, I mean he's just everywhere at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He's in everything. So he does another great performance as Caesar.
Oh, of course,
just absolutely stunning.
Does he do the voice acting for it as well?
I don't know if he does the voice acting. To be honest with you, he probably does. I don't know.
I think he does.
Caesar's great. Like, just he demands screen presence, and that's exactly how it should be.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the leader of the apes, so when you see him on screen, like, you're captivated by him.
Yeah,
I mean, he's awesome.
There's that one scene where Koba's kind of defying him, and he's talking about man work, human work, and they let them do their human work, and Koba starts pointing scars like, this is human work, this is human work, and Caesar just kind of stands up to him, and he just towers over him, and you see like just the looming presence of Caesar and how captivating it is and how intimidating he can be, and you're like, this is a fucking leader right here.
Yeah. No, he's awesome. Like, I really, really appreciated Andy Serkis' performance in this. He's great all around. I couldn't mark it. Like, what do you think about I wouldn't say the leader of the humans, because that would be Gary Oldman.
Right.
But Jason Clarke's performance as Malcolm, who is the human who interacts with Caesar the most.
He's not as demanding of a character as Caesar, but he is very believable, and I think you do have a lot of compassion for him, and you see that he's a good person. He's trying to keep peace between the humans and the apes while trying to help preserve his own species. So I mean, he does have noble causes. So there's a very likable character portrayed really well, and someone that you really root for. And like, even at the end when he's holding the gun to Gary Oldman and the other 2 guys, it's you could see the conflict in him. Like, he's just kind of sitting there. He's like, I have to do this. Like, he doesn't want to, but he realizes he has to, because it's the right thing to do, and it's ultimately what's going to lead to mostly the most successful results between human and ape.
Right, where he sees that they can coexist because of his relationship with Caesar, and seeing that Caesar just wants to be in peace. Gary Oldman didn't get to see that type of time, or didn't spend that time with Caesar, so he doesn't know.
Right.
all that. He just thinks that apes are attacking them, which is, he sees Koba.
Exactly.
He sees the Koba version of it, where they're trying to round up humans, kill them, or keep them in prisons, or do whatever he can. So, of course, Gary Oldman's going to act that way. So,
but even then, you feel for Gary Oldman as well. He's not just this dastardly, like, oh, let's kill the apes guy. Like, there's that point when they finally get power back, and his iPad gets power back to it, and you see him flipping through the photos of his family, and he breaks down. Like, you get to understand that character and what he's been through, and how much the humans have suffered as well. I mean, you realize the humans have suffered, but at that point, it kind of really hits hard about everything they've been through, and you understand his side of everything.
That's such great storytelling. You can put like a couple minute scene in there where all it is the leader, or I guess the leader of the humans, Gary Oldman's character Dreyfus, who's just looking through an iPad and just starts crying because of his lost family.
Mm-hmm.
It gives so much
depth
to that character, where you don't get that in a lot of movies. Instead, you could have easily had like a villain, kind of like what they had in Avatar, where you had the military soldier guy who had a couple scars, who could have just been the complete D-bag and stuff like that. Like a stereotypical cookie-cutter villain type of human character. You could have had that guy as the leader.
Yes.
And was like, easily going against the apes. But they went a different route. They went to like the emotional leader for Gary Oldman's character, where he's seen some shit. He's seen the loss of his family, and he's just trying to hold together the human race at this point,
right,
and not being a D-bag about it.
And it also shows that he had a military background, which also further develops his character and how he became this leader type person who's willing to run the sacrifices and make the risks for the better of society, his own society.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much great character development in this movie,
and it's not crammed down your throat either.
That's the thing. Great storytelling, you don't necessarily need to spend a lot of time on a character. You can just give them small little scenes that gives them so much depth, as you said. That is so important to the story, where if you didn't have these types of scenes in this movie, you wouldn't care about that character. It wouldn't have that weight. So when he's squaring off against Gary or Jason Clarke's character, when Jason Clarke's going to kill them because he's about to detonate the C4,
yes,
it wouldn't have any weight to that.
Yes.
But you'd establish that weight before. It's so good. Like, I can't...
And when he ultimately sacrifices himself, saying it's for the human race, like, it just makes sense.
Right.
It makes sense for that character.
It's so nice to see that in a movie nowadays, because I would say, like, more than half the movies I watch now, characters don't have proper depth. They don't... Like, I just don't care about half these characters that I watch. And, again, coming off the Michael Bay travesty that we came off of, it's just so refreshing to see something that's so night and day in contrast. It's just, oh God, this movie was really well done.
There's no question about how well done it is. Like,
and you see, like, we haven't touched on Blue Eyes, Caesar's son.
Yes,
his relationship with his father and how he's trying to learn from his dad.
Yeah. I mean, it's the typical kind of like teenager rebellion type thing, but done in this really interesting way.
Yeah.
It's...
Touch on it a little bit.
Well, it's, him, his dad trying to guide him and everything, and he's just having none of it. It's like, oh, whatever, Dad, you're stupid.
Right.
But once, Koba starts to take over, Blue Eyes kind of sees how right his dad was and everything, and he kind of sees the light. And he's like, I fucked up royally. And, he expresses that to Caesar once he finds them again. And, so you just see this character arc of Blue Eyes of, kind of just growing up, in this small, not even a huge major character, but you get this great arc of him growing up and maturing and learning right from wrong and, learning values and morals through these two different apes that he looks up to.
Yeah, I mean, you can see like how Koba's influence was definitely on him, and then his father's influence, and how it kind of like just plays out. It's so well done, man. Like, it's so true to life.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, the breaking point was when Koba killed Ash, his friend, because Ash wouldn't follow Koba's orders, and that's just it hits home because there's that rule: no ape should kill another ape, and it's the breaking of that, and that Blue Eyes sees the morals that his father developed and how important they are.
Yeah, and then he sees the other apes that are loyal to Caesar in chains, basically just captured by Koba and not able to be part of the apes' uprising just because he knows that they would probably try to overthrow Koba if they had the opportunity to. Wow, that's some crazy lightning.
That was some loud thunder.
Holy shit. So if this podcast dies, this is our last transmission.
Send help. Send Guinness.
Send help and send Guinness, yes. All right. So we talked about that. We talked about the characters a little bit. What else do you want to talk about?
Well, just the overall visuals, I would say.
Okay.
Well, first off, I think they do a great job of making all of the apes look unique, especially, well, not all of them apes, but, the important ones. I mean, but by time visual things, they all have very unique faces. And even from there, some are scarred to help, define them and distinguish them. Mm-hmm. Blue Eyes gets mauled by a bear at the very beginning. He has that scar for the rest of the movie. His friend Ash gets shot in the beginning. He has that scar on his shoulder. Then there's, obviously Koba, who just has the very scarred face. But then there's Caesar, who just has probably the most human face out of all of them. It's not like elongated like most of them. It's very proportioned to a human, but just also very intense. So they have great character design for it to help distinguish all these apes that normally we'd look at and go, oh, an ape's an ape, but they give them these features that create great personality and helps the viewer just kind of follow everything and which one's which.
Yeah, and seeing them walking around and everything, it's hard to distinguish that they're not actual apes. They're CGI created characters. I mean, it's crazy how well they use that technology to make it so believable.
Yes,
because you're immediately immersed. Like the first screen or the first shot that you see of this movie is a close up on Caesar's eyes,
and it's the last shot you see also.
And right, it's perfect. It mirrors so well. But the slow fade back, it's CGI, but it looks so freaking good.
Oh god, yeah.
I mean, it's just amazing the work that they did. And aside from Koba on horseback,
yes,
dual wielding machine guns and shooting up in the air like he's America.
Right.
That's just I expected him to have an American flag in the background. It was just like a typical stereotypical.
There is that one shot with the American flag though, but that's such a great shot. When Koba's walking across the American flag that's sticking out from the building, and you see all the apes rounding up the humans. It's such a strong and powerful shot, and it's it's poignant. It's not just the American flag just to be like, oh, it's the American flag. It's like, this is what America's come to. It is ape run at this point.
Yeah, again, there's so much cinematography that's excellent in this movie. Yeah. It's so good.
I am a sucker for good cinematography, and this movie has it.
Yeah, it's so freaking good. All right, so we touched on everything. Do you want to wrap up?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Why don't we wrap up? There's really nothing else that I wanted to talk about aside from just how well everything was done. So, final thoughts.
This is a movie that's defying summer blockbusters this year, as far as I'm concerned. Like, you would be hard-pressed to be a summer movie and top this. It's done to such an incredible fashion. Great detail with the story and the visuals and just everything all around. It's engaging throughout the whole movie. It's the perfect pace. It's the perfect length. It's nearly the perfect movie. There's the hiccup with the Koba on the horse with two machine guns,
which is realistically like 5 seconds of actual screen time.
Right.
So it's irrelevant.
Right. I mean, like I said, this is almost the perfect movie. So out of 4 stars, I think I'm going to have to give it 4 stars.
Okay. All right, fair enough. I went into this movie with super high hopes. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which was the first one. Rise of the Planet of the Apes, sorry. Which was the first one.
Yeah.
And that movie blew me away. Like I watched it in theaters, and I wasn't expecting much because like the last one that we saw was the Tim Burton movie.
Marky Mark.
Right, and like
I'm glad he didn't make a reappearance.
kind of like a tongue-in-cheek rendition of everything, and it's supposed to be serious, but you just don't take it seriously because you just like man in suit type of these are the apes, and it just never worked well. And I never was really attached to the movies of back in the day that they were remaking these off of. But when I sat down and watched that in a theater a couple years ago, I was just blown away at how good that freaking movie was.
It was like your favorite of that year, right?
Yeah, it was. A lot of people were talking about how X-Men First Class was the movie of that summer, but I was actually saying that this movie was better than that movie was better than X-Men First Class. As a movie, it was just that freaking good. It's not a movie that I can watch on repeated viewings because it was so good in itself that I don't need to watch it over and over again because it's so dense. Like it's not one of those movies. But so I was going into Dawn of the Planet of the Apes just absolutely stoked. Like I could not wait. I was reading reviews earlier in the week. Like yes, this is promising. This is getting good reviews. I can't believe they're actually going to do it again. But yeah, this is like the Empire Strikes Back of this series. This is a great sequel to a really good movie. It follows up really well. It does everything so well. The characters are great. It's just great storytelling. Like this whole entire series so far, the first two have been just excellent stories where you care about characters. You see their emotions behind everything. You see Caesar a little bit later in the movie finding an old cassette tape of him and
James Franco.
And James Franco in the original movie, and just how much that influenced him to be that leader that he is today. It's just such a great freaking way to tie everything together, and the way that it kind of just sums up how Caesar is as a person. Little things like that are just so good. It's a masterpiece that we're watching, and honestly, I think you're right in terms of like movies of the summer really have to kind of live up to this level in terms of how good and how quality this is all around, not just like in one area where like, oh, the character's good, but everything else sucks.
It raises the bar.
It raises that bar like it did in the original that summer, and it's going to be hard pressed. And like I'm excited for movies that are coming out. Like obviously Guardians is coming out next month. Super stoked about that, but like that's going to be a different type of movie. So I can't look at it and like hold it to this kind of caliber. I'm probably going to try.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. Hopefully I'm going to enjoy that movie for a whole different reason. But I love character-driven pieces, as anybody fans of The Lost Level know. Anything that's involving characters, I'm always talking about how I really appreciate characters. And this Dawn of the Planet of the Apes series so far captivates everything that I want out of characters. So I'm gonna agree with you, man. 4 out of 4.
Nice.
It's so freaking good. Highly recommend going and check that out. Definitely, it's worth full price for sure. It brings up so many good discussions afterwards too. Like you can just talk about like how the human race is currently in our society, and it kind of like touches on a lot of different values that we see on the everyday basis and what really matters to us and what should matter to us. There's so much complex stuff in it. It's so good. So
one thing we didn't even touch on is how humans look down on us such inferior. Like when those two humans found Koba in the arsenal, and Koba just acted as a stupid monkey. And like, oh, stupid monkey. Like that really shows how the humans viewed the apes, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well,
so it's just little scenes like that just really just make it work.
Oh, God, that was so terrifying, though. Like, he's just acting stupid, and then all of a sudden, there's a quick pan to his face going back to normal Koba. Just pure evil. Just, it's so freaking good. Yeah. It's so good. All right, so let's wrap up this episode here. How can we reach everybody?
You can follow me on Twitter. My Twitter name is Alex Sandberg, AlexSanberg, or you can email me directly at the website, alex@lostlevel.com. Chris?
You can reach me on twitter.com/calmintensity. You can email me at chris@lostlevel.com. You can reach the website on lostlevel.com. In the upper right-hand corner, we have little links to pretty much everything. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/lostlevel. We have a Twitter page, twitter.com/thelostlevel. We also have a YouTube page, which we're starting to update on a more and more regular basis.
I plan on updating it soon. Sorry for the lack. I forget it existed for a while.
So we're going to start utilizing that a lot more. Also, we're on iTunes. You can get all of our episodes on there, all of our original episodes podcast, The Lost Level, as well as our roundtable discussions. Definitely check that out on there. We'd really appreciate that. Give us some stars. Give us some reviews. We really appreciate it. As always, spread the word, and talk to you guys later.
Bye.